A home to call your own is a source of stability and a well-earned milestone toward achieving independent financial insulation. It's a privilege that all should have the chance to work towards, but in Hong Kong, this is not particularly realistic for most. Good evening, judges. My name is Avi, and today I'm joined by my colleagues Alex, Isabel, and Selena as Eva Consulting. And we're so excited to help New World Development build a sustainable home for all in Hong Kong and create tangible shared value. With a severe housing crisis rooted in complex factors and past initiatives failing to alleviate the crisis adequately, you came to us asking what innovative and sustainable solutions New World Development can engage to make affordable housing accessible in Hong Kong. And we're so excited to introduce Project Sustain, a private-public partnership that works for the people in a smart and sustainable way that sets Hong Kong in good stead for a greener future. From the outside looking in, Hong Kong is an economic powerhouse, enjoying status as the fifth richest city and the global gateway between the East and the West. However, underneath it all, everyday Hong Kong's residents are struggling with poverty, elderly on the streets, nauseatingly unaffordable housing, and high income inequality spread. How does an affluent, developed city like this suffer social issues this severe? Taking a look at why the housing crisis is persistent in Hong Kong, there are incredibly complex dynamics contributing to the root cause. Firstly, land is scarce in Hong Kong, being a mountainous and island collective region. Currently, only 7% of land is used for residential purposes. Secondly, there is significant commercial pressure on housing prices from major developers as well as investors who further inflate prices. Thirdly, beyond Hong Kong's already dense population, shrinking household size and increasing life expectancy continue to up aggregate housing demand. And finally, there is an inherent conflict of interest in the government's battle against the housing crisis, considering 20% of their revenue is actually derived from land premiums. Now, the issue is evidently dire, so what exactly has been done about the crisis? Interestingly, it has received ample attention from parties such as the government, NGOs, and private stakeholders like New World, who have engaged in a host of actual and proposed initiatives over the past 2 to 3 decades. Those listed on the right-hand side give us just a mere snapshot. But why does it feel like there is little change and instead the problem appears to be worsening? Taking a deeper dive, why have these many initiatives not been effective in alleviating the housing problem? We've mapped a sample of the stronger initiative against 3 core concepts that we believe are required for the right impact: sustainability across the environment, economic, and social spheres. Environmental to ensure the solutions are green, smart, and have foreseeable longevity into the future. Economic sustainability in that they are value accretive for the stakeholders involved, including developers like New World, the Hong Kong government, and of course, residents. And finally, socially sustainable in that they improve quality of life and wealth equality across the Hong Kong population in the short, medium, and long term. Against these, even the most impactful historical solutions are often strong in maybe 1 or 2 aspects, but they fail to comprehensively address the issue in a holistic manner. We see a gap of opportunity here for New World Development to inject its expertise, commitment, and passion to make a real difference in creating shared value for the people of Hong Kong. And we see this materializing in the form of a private-public partnership. We have some further key learnings to take forward. In contrast to previous initiatives which have had minimal impact, the new solution must be bolder. A big challenge needs a big answer, and where other groups have traded the better solution for the safer one, we believe New World Development is the perfect candidate to spearhead a bold initiative backed by research. Secondly, to tackle the existing vested interest in the housing game, it is integral that we involve players in the property industry in the conversation, and New World is well positioned as a leader to do this. And finally, the solution must be both innovative and sustainable, ensuring it's not only green, but also one for the long game. Now, New World is a champion in all 3 of these areas, and we believe you are perfectly positioned to create the change and create the shared value that Hong Kong has been waiting for.
We drive this change and champion the future of sustainable housing in Hong Kong. We are so excited to announce the introduction of Project Sustain, a reimagined private-public partnership aimed at providing secure, affordable, and sustainable home ownership solutions to Hong Kong citizens. Our research has identified ongoing issues in the housing cycle, and we've consequently recognized the disconnect between property developers, the government, and the Hong Kong citizen, which has accentuated the ongoing housing crisis. At its crux, Project Sustain is an ongoing partnership with the Hong Kong Housing Authority to operationalize the land reclamation process in an ethical and sustainable manner. These three pillars of social, economic, and environmental sustainability are designed to establish the foundations of our strategy and will guide our thinking into how we design, structure, and execute our planning. Our research has identified Hong Kong is no stranger to the concept of land reclamation. And in fact, Langtown Tomorrow Vision was introduced in 2017 between the Hong Kong Islands and the eastern waters of Langtown to address the ongoing housing crisis in the south. With a government-backed target of creating 400,000 residential units, housing over 1.1 million citizens, and injecting over $900 billion into the Hong Kong economy, New World will be the partner to spearhead this initiative with our continued focus on green infrastructure and social sustainability. Project Sustain will be established on three key capabilities. Number one, public housing for property developed with a 30-70 split between public housing and a subsidized rent-to-buy initiative. We understand the importance of affordability and security in housing, but we also understand the intergenerational wealth gap in Hong Kong is becoming a major issue. And in order to support first-home buyers, we've decided to provide a 70% housing capacity towards a subsidized rent-to-buy initiative. Sustainable reclamation also continues to remain a key issue for the government, and our green infrastructure capabilities will ensure any development into the reclamation of Langtown Island will not be at the cost of impacting the biodiversity within the region. And finally, our developments in green infrastructure supports our continued commitment towards carbon neutral buildings with net positive benefits to the environment. Project Sustain continues to support our vision of creating a sustainable housing market by creating a net benefit value to our three key stakeholders. The everyday Hong Kong citizen will acquire greater access to public housing. The Hong Kong government will secure greater housing capacity through our green infrastructure property. And New World will support its continued commitment towards creating a sustainable future for the Hong Kong economy. Our quantitative impacts will drive over 206,000 residential units, over 500,000 residents, and 16.8% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions year on year. Our qualitative impacts of Project Sustain are focused on improving the supply of public housing, improving intergenerational wealth inequality through rent-to-buy initiatives, and driving environmental sustainability through New World's green infrastructure. Our private-public partnership strategy focused towards fundamental value creation and ESG initiatives leverages New World's key capabilities to drive sustainable growth for the business. But more importantly, the acquisition is a symbol of New World's continued commitment to serving communities by providing essential infrastructure that powers entire economies, all without compromising a sense of responsibility towards the environment. As we operate towards a renewable energy model of cost control, our vision is to exceed sustainability targets of net carbon neutrality by 2055, whilst ensuring the security, affordability, and sustainability of Hong Kong's housing market. And finally, we'll play a linchpin role in the creation of jobs for years to come, both directly through our approach of doubling down on property development and indirectly through the estimated $873 billion we are projected to add to the Hong Kong economy by 2041. Sustainable housing is driving the future of living in Hong Kong, and New World will be the ones to spearhead this initiative.
So now that we know the importance of a public-private partnership, why should New World Development be the leading partner of choice for the Hong Kong government? Well, New World Development's strong-standing reputation as a market leader in property development sets them apart. Their portfolio boasts projects such as the bespoke Sky City, with projects like these culminating to $43 billion worth of New World Development's operations. However, more importantly, their strong focus on sustainability aligns perfectly with the government's 2050 vision of a net zero economy. Currently, 60% of all of Hong Kong's emissions derive from their buildings. With New World Development's history in sustainable city structures and accolades in green building leadership, there is high incentive for government partnership. Further, New World Development is a leader in innovation and technology, spearheading new green technologies and championing a culture of innovation that achieves sustainability goals that we once thought were a pipe dream. The government cannot achieve their visions alone, and the New World Development is the perfect partnership for their country and their citizens. So now that we've established this partnership, how will we approach sustainable building development in the Lantau Islands? This can be done in two ways. Firstly, strategic city planning to maximize the potential of Hong Kong's limited landmass, and secondly, the establishment of smart infrastructure to reduce carbon emissions. So firstly, looking at city planning, this refers to how we strategically lay out the buildings on Lantau Island such that it optimizes livability, productivity, and sustainability. We can look at this both socially and environmentally. Socially, we'll create a productive environment where people are close to transport, jobs, and shopping centres, whilst also creating inclusive communities through public and communal areas to promote health and welfare. On the other side, environmental sustainability refers to how the city is laid out to reduce the urban heat island effect. Hong Kong's dense population creates hot pockets of land that mass produce carbon emissions. And as such, New World Development can plan the arrangement of buildings, pavements, and more to generate greater airflow and maximize thematic performance. Further, we can look to build smart infrastructure to increase environmental sustainability efforts. Firstly, the Internet of Things is proving to be a massive player in minimizing carbon emissions. Through using sensors to monitor lighting, air pollution, and more, these sensors can dynamically adjust light or ventilators to accommodate for the number of people in the building. Secondly, renewable energy is increasingly important as we look towards carbon-neutral energy alternatives. Solar is one of the most suitable for residential buildings, where New World Development can look to integrate thin-film solar panels to create a source of net zero energy. And lastly, green architecture is a way that we can generate net positive back into the atmosphere. With technologies such as green roofs, vertical greenery, and urban farming, we can interweave these innovations into the fabric of our communities to preserve pre-construction levels of oxygen and biodiversity. As such, both city planning and smart infrastructure will redefine how we approach public housing, but also transform the way that Hong Kong citizens will live and breathe. So now that we've established New World Development's proposal for city planning and smart infrastructure, how can we sustain this environmental movement into the future? Introducing the Green Development Alliance, an agreement between top industry players pledging for a vision for a net zero society. With Project Sustain setting the tone for future sustainable development projects, New World will lead the Green Development Alliance, a community of sustainably driven companies where resources and expertise can be shared, cross-industry recognition can be gained, and where each alliance member will gain a badge as proof of their commitment to sustainability. Through this, we intend to create shared value for countries, governments, cities, and our future selves. So we've covered a pretty complex strategy, so let's take a step back and look at the major impacts that this project drives. Economically, Project Sustain will provide affordable housing for 555,000 residents across 206,000 residential units. Environmentally, city planning, smart green infrastructure, as well as the creation of the all-new Green Development Alliance will pledge to see the reduction of all carbon emissions. And socially, we'll improve the supply of public housing and as such, remedy the intergenerational wealth gap. We at Eva Consulting have considered several risks associated with Project Sustain. The biggest risk is that the government chooses not to partner with us. If this is the case, we'll drive the same sustainable green building project in donated proprietary land or in new targeted areas of parklands and old industrial areas where we'll subsidize the housing to continue with our commitment to SDGs. Other potential risks include time pressure, scheme tricksters, and environmental damage, all of which have been addressed with mitigations to ensure future success.
So, how can we implement Project Sustain? We recommend a 3-stage implementation plan that will span from now to 2041. Firstly, from now to 2023, we can kickstart this project by establishing strong foundations, such as designing buildings, and additional logistics plannings will follow. Next, we will begin the build phase in 2027 after reclamation has been completed. This encompasses a 15-year timeline of ongoing development until 2041 with annual reviews. And finally, launch will begin in 2032 with residents starting to move in, and our Green Development Alliance will launch from 2023. Project Sustain will deliver strong quantifiable results, both financially and socially. Firstly, Project Sustain will drive significant change by creating 206,000 residential units by 2041. Reaching at least 555,000 residents, this project will reduce pressure on the government while also increasing the efficiency of housing developments, especially with our Green Development Alliance. Project Sustain is also environmentally impactful, reducing its carbon emissions by 18.6% each year. And finally, the project is financially feasible with an expected 7-year payback period. Hong Kong is facing a pressing housing crisis. Prices are soaring and supply is limited. It's becoming an issue faced by many Hong Kong citizens day by day with no end in sight. With such a large challenge at hand, we need a bold solution. We as Eva Consulting proudly present Project Sustain, a strategy that addresses the needs of those most affected in a creative but eco-friendly manner, reaching thousands of residents who would otherwise have no home to call their own. Look no further than Project Sustain to create shared value that meets Hong Kong's housing demands. Bold, innovative, and sustainable is the key to setting up Hong Kong for a brighter and greener future.